Becky Davies and Rachel Norton, who are working in Taff Bargoed, and they will give us our next presentation now. So thank you very much, both.
Thank you. I hope we can all hear me.
Morning.
Right. So yeah, my name is Becky Davies, and I work with Natural Resources Wales, and I am one of the leads for the South Central Area Statement. So South Central being Cardiff, Vale Glamorgan, Rhondda Taff, Merthyr, and Bridgend. So I'm here with Rachel Morton, who is from Merthyr District Council, to talk to you today about a fantastic river restoration project, the Taff Bargoed. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of sort of a quick introduction to the South Central Area Statement, which the Taff Bargoed project has been really influential in our development, particularly of our water sort of theme within the area statement. So then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the background and development of the Taff Bargoed project. And then I'm going to hand over to Rachel, who's going to talk through the reality on the ground and working with the community and our key stakeholders. And then you come back to me, and I'm going to try and tie it all up very seamlessly. So to begin, so the South Central Area Statement, for those of you who don't know, is the sort of local interpretation and delivery of the natural resources policy. So this is the national challenges and opportunities and how they fit into our local priorities and how we sort of look at those big policy, those big issues, and what that means in the local area for local people and the local environment. So from here, we identified a series of themes and issues to address those key challenges and really work on those opportunities. And they are sort of working with water, our health and air quality, but really underpinning all that is how we build resilient ecosystems and connecting people with nature and making sure that the decisions that we make are sort of built within that. So completely underpinning everything that we do and how we deliver the area statements, we have three really core values, and these are valuing the natural environment, so really understanding it. It's about building equitable partnerships, so working with the people in the communities, but also sort of really key stakeholders, those who make decisions, and sort of working better together and understanding our overlaps between all our different organisations and the communities. And then putting the environment at the heart of decision making, so making sure that we aren't looking at or repeating the issues that we've had in the past, but building for more resilient futures for communities and our future generations. So why I'm sort of talking about this is because the Taff Bargoed really embodies all our work around the South Wales valleys. When we look at water environment and when we consider the South Wales valleys, we have this legacy of a highly modified water environment and right across the entire catchment. So within the actual rivers and our communities, we deal with aging infrastructure and pollution and the flood risk. But then we also consider the sort of the catchment issues and the legacy that we've had there. So the Taff Bargoed, like a lot of our rivers in the valleys, in the coalfields, have that legacy of industrial revolution and then how we reclaim that land and how we live in it now. They're all very much tied together. And what's also sort of really classic about the Taff Bargoed river system is that communities and how they're built around the water environment and how we use that water environment, how it is important to us in the sort of intrinsic value, but then also for our access and recreation, but then also the things that we rely upon the water environment, from drinking water to ensuring that we are safe and that our homes aren't flooded. So we have a great connection with that water environment, which we through the Taff Bargoed project, we need to sort of see those knock-on effects, but then also work with communities to sort of understand so they have a better perspective of their interaction with that water environment. So a little bit of background about the Taff Bargoed. As I say, like most river networks within the South Wales coalfields, there is a history of the coal mining there. So the Taff Bargoed was at the heart of one of, I think, probably at the world, within the world at one point, was one of the deepest coal mines. It certainly was in the UK. And the Taff Bargoed River was diverted and then buried underneath this exceptionally deep coal mine. So for, I think it was over 100 years this colliery was in place, and then in 1992 it finally did close its doors, and the sort of the thinking about that land and how that land's going to be restored and reclaimed started. So the thinking around site restoration started, and there's a significant amount of earthworks needed to sort of look at that piece of land. And they did speak to communities, and the sort of overriding message was they wanted green space, open space for them to use. So that sort of was followed through, and as part of the reclamation scheme, 2 online lakes were created within the sort of the centre of the main colliery site. I don't think there was actual, people didn't say they wanted a lake, but that's what they got. And there's been a sort of bedding in period over the last few decades where people have really grown to use the site and really value its recreational benefits. So the Taff Bargoed, or Park Taff Bargoed, known in the community, has now just got the one lake. The upper lake has completely sort of been succeeded into a wetland area, but the second lake is very much used as an important site for angling. There's walks all the way around it, so lots of sort of families use the site. And it's also, and I'll always get this wrong, it is a really important site on the water polo canoeing scene. So every year there's a big um, sort of big bringing together and a big sort of competition, and people from all over the country come to play water polo canoeing. So yeah, it's a really important site, and over the last few years, this problem of siltation has really sort of become more and more prevalent. So the problem being, looking at the entire catchment, you've got a lot of siltation coming down. Now, we undertook an assessment of the catchment and to look at what the issues are, and we learned that the river is very much incised. It's shorter than it should naturally be, and as a result, it has really increase the amount of erosion processes going on, and the first place that those that siltation is sort of dropping out is in those lakes. So as I said earlier on, we've lost the top lake, and if nothing is done, we're going to completely lose the second lake as well, and it will revert into a wetland and with a river running through it. Now, that is an option, but this is a very much this is very loved and important site for the community. So we do need to have that balance. And I think working in the South Wales Valleys, we've sort of very quickly realised in looking around this issue of the Taff Bargoed Park is that we live in a very modified environment, and we cannot take it back to complete natural state because our communities live within it, and the costs would just be absolutely, prohibitive. So we have to work with these problems and find ways of rebalancing and replicating natural processes, and to having that sort of compromise, making it a resilient environment for biodiversity and ecosystem for ecosystem health, but then also ensuring that the communities also have that resilience in living and using that environment as well. So we need very much an integrated solution. So we undertook an assessment and looked at the entire catchment and how that connectivity with the modified landscape and also the sort of history of the modified water environment and how they connect. And as I say, the communities and then in the wider catchment, how we use the land is a really important part of working together on a solution. But it took a little bit of time for us to understand and the connections across the catchment. So we have a duty to work with our communities so they better understand that those interactions as well, and that we can't just recreate two open lakes. That's not a sustainable or resilient way of managing this. So we have to sort of look at alternative solutions and working through the Wellbeing Future Generations Act, the wellbeing goals and the sustainable management of natural resources principles, we very much could evolve the thinking and develop a really integrated project, which we were successful in getting sustainable management scheme funding, and we could start a 3-year project. So now I'm going to hand over to Rachel. So Rachel is the project manager of the work and is employed as part of that project. And Rachel is the person who works on the ground and is working on these challenging sort of balance with people. So I'm going to hand over to you now, Rachel. Ooh. Hello, Rachel. Oh, I don't.
Rachel must have disconnected. I've just promoted her now to a presenter again.
Okay.
So she should be able to turn the microphone and camera back on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi,
Am
Rachel.
I back on? I am
Yeah.
so sorry about that. I have no idea what happened. Okay, am I on for this slide now?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'm Rachel Morton, back. This is a obviously European-funded SMS project, co-funded by Merthyr Council and NRW. So it's a whole catchment area scheme. So we'll be working upstream of the lake as well on the issues of erosion, poaching, watering, crossing points, lack of riparian vegetation, and this will be addressed in partnership with landowners and occupiers.
Ooh, have we lost Rachel again? Um,
Are you able to carry on, Becky?
I will, yeah. So as Rachel was saying, this is a project about the whole catchment. So looking at the management of the landscape and working with commoners and landowners and public landowners as well, and how we can reconnect the river corridor, how we can sort of look at that wider landscape management and to reduce the amount of erosion and siltation entering into the water body in the first place. We're also looking at opportunities to sort of create length in the catchment, so restore those natural hydromorphological processes, which at the moment are accelerating that erosion. So that combination of landscape management, but then also the sort of in-channel erosion as well, to reduce that load sort of downstream. That is essential, we see, so that when we try and tackle those fundamental problems which a significant portion of the community really care about, that will allow the sustainability of the work. So at least then we're reducing the amount of siltation, because those lakes will always silt up because of that's not a natural process. So we need to tackle the land at the lake, but then also tackle the wider catchment issues for that resilience in the system. so I'm not 100% sure what Rachel was going to say exactly. But one of the sort of things we wanted to work with those communities, very much sort of understanding their needs for the site, to look at how they use it and what are they willing to compromise. So in restoring those natural processes and or replicating those natural processes, because we can't go back to natural, but so they can continue that. It's a really important, valuable use of the site, but then also we can make it more resilient, so that that service and that resource will be there for a long time to come, and we won't have to sort of do all this again in 10 years. The alternative solution was very much to dredge the entire place. Now, that cost, sort of, when we did look into it, ended up being prohibitive. So the sort of balance was that we would have to reduce the size, but also maintain those services. So we're working with JBA to sort of look at the options, and what is essential here is that everybody have their say. This site is a legacy of something that was just done to communities. It's also, the reclamation was just something that was done, and we want to make sure that when we look at the issues, that we want to sort of make sure that people understand the issues, that we can't just have open lakes, and understand and value the natural processes, but also recognize the importance this has to people in the community and their well-being, and to local economies. As I say, this is an important site for the local community, and people from all over the country come here to play water polo canoeing every year. So this is, a little village in the middle of the valleys, and that's why it's really important sort of site. So this is a real challenge because we all want something different. So we need to sort of really work with it, and what is technically possible as well. We have some significant modifications downstream which we can't modify. It is very ridiculously expensive, but how we can sort of replicate natural processes and still maintain that natural resource. So yeah, we've sort of looked at the inspiration and talking to the communities, and sort of, so we could lay out the sorts of things that we were looking at. We didn't know what was going to be technically feasible. We're still working through that, but give them an idea of the sorts of interventions that we could do, so that we could manage this issue long term, but then also they could manage their natural resource. So this was a kind of inspiration and something that we could go out and talk to people, because the sort of the understanding ranges widely to really impressive naturalists who really understand the place, would love to see it back into a wetland, but then also anglers and canoeists and how they use it, and just somebody walking with their children and walking their dog on a lunchtime. And obviously this is a site which has become even more important during current times. So I started talking to you about the area statement, and sort of try and bring you back to that now, and show you how these are completely connected. So it was, the working around this has been going on for a long time, and it took a long time of getting people together to get to the point where we could get funding. But we what is it's then that has so it's really influenced the way that we've sort of built up the area statement. And now the way I see the Taff Bargoed project is very much an area statement in real life. It's incorporating how we are building resilience into the ecosystem, and to enhance and protect the local biodiversity, but also make it resilient for the ecosystem benefits that we get out of it. So slowing flows, cleaning water through sort of managing siltation, and improving the in-channel habitats. That land management element to make sure that we are restoring our sort of freeze habitats, and doing this through woodland creation, through restoring the sort of upland streams, and also through sort of conservation grazing, that balance of grazing to enhance grasslands. But we're also sort of looking at, we're doing this with the community. It's such an important aspect of it because, we understand that this is a really important resource for people's well-being. And, the green recovery, this is there. I'm nearly finished, thank you. Yes, it's a really important thing. And we've learned all our way through this. And as I say, it's something which is very typical of the other valley rivers. And so learning about how do we do these things on the ground from a physical thing, but then also how to do that with working with communities is a fantastic learning opportunity for us, and something that we can then roll out and learn from and scale up in other river catchments across the South Wales valleys. Thank you very much for listening.
Thanks for filling in there, Becky. I have no idea what happened. It wasn't stage fright, it was technology. But thanks for that.
No problem.
Thank you, Becky. That was, very well done jumping into the breach. And Rachel will bring you in for the questions at the end. So sorry that we lost you there for a minute. So we're now